Well,
It's your turn.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, October 17th, 2024 Timothy. Okay, you're right. Welcome to the Thursday, October 24th, 2024 Timoth Planning Commission meeting.
Wrong one got printed out for you, sorry.
It's all right. I'd like to welcome everyone, and before we begin, I would ask that perhaps we could have a moment of silence for Bob Lloyd, who was a longtime member and is no longer with us. And I actually believe that
If I may.
Gail has some parting words from Bob.
Yeah. Um. I had told Bob earlier this year that we were gonna dedicate the town report to him for all the work that he's done. And when I told that to one of his sons who was here in the spring, he says, well, that's probably a good idea because he's starting to fail. So anyways, I emailed Bob and thanked him for all of his service. And I said, do you have any words of wisdom to pass on? So this is what's gonna be in the town report. Words of wisdom? Try very hard to maintain the values that have kept Timoth the special working rural town that it has been for over 200 years. If these values are lost, they will be gone forever. Okay.
Thank you.
And I did talk to one of his sons today. They're gonna have some kind of a service in the spring probably. They're still trying to figure it out.
Our next order of business is to review the agenda, any additions or deletions. Being none. Okay. Next order of business is to approve the minutes of the 9/19/2024 meeting. Any discussion?
I don't remember. Well, then there must not have been any big balloons in it. I don't remember that. If you need a copy, there's some on the table, but it's very small print.
Oh, yeah, I did read these. I don't remember having any issues. So I'll move we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna get into discussing the enhanced energy plan and standard requirements. And Vito has actually written something up that he has handed out to everyone. And Vito, would you mind reading this out to everyone? So perhaps the people who are on the confuser can at least hear,
Yeah.
one time, and that way we can all start from the same spot.
square.
And then we can discuss what he has here, and we'll
Right. Well, all your previous meetings, we've always run into the same problem where we're not really happy with the figures that they give us to use in our report, enhanced energy report, and some of the other features that they want inserted in the plan. So I figure if we could, I wrote up what I consider a disclaimer saying that, okay, we're gonna go with this plan, but we're not happy with it. So I'll read what I wrote after the last meeting. Members of the planning commission had many concerns and questions involving the language, definitions, and figures used for our enhanced energy plan. We, as members and residents of the town of Timoth, felt strongly that accepting this EEP, Enhanced Energy Plan, as written, might be misleading to those who read it or misrepresent Timoth in some areas. However, we felt that not having an approved enhanced energy plan and lose the substantial deference afforded a town by the Public Utilities Commission was not in the town's best interest. Substantial deference is a legal concept that means giving significant weight to the recommendations of a municipality's legislative bodies or planning commissions. It also means that the recommendations are presumed to be valid, reasonable, and correct unless there is a good cause to believe otherwise. Good cause is when there is evidence that deferring to the recommendations would be detrimental to the public good or the state's interests. We felt that the majority of Timoth's residents live here because of the rural nature of our town, the conserved lands, the farms, the woodlands too, and do not want wanton, misplaced development of renewable energy production to take away from our town. And though not a guarantee that substantial deference will give Timoth the power to move or stop a project, it will give Timoth a much better opportunity to at least have our day in court if necessary. Now, this is the public utilities definition of substantial deference. Substantial deference means to give significant and meaningful weight to the land conservation measures in the plans of the affected municipalities and the recommendations of the municipal legislative bodies, the municipal and regional planning commissions regarding the municipal and regional plans respectively. I just feel that if we accept Jeremy's plan and go forward with it, we can still have the enhanced energy plan and get the substantial deference if we do need it. And that's why I wrote this. I don't know, I don't have any problems with rewording that. I just wrote this up after the last meeting because I felt we were just hitting a wall here. So I just wanted to get past that.
Can you email me this so I don't have to type it all over?
Yeah, sure.
You save it? Okay. It would be good to put it in minutes, that's all.
Okay.
And to Pat and Kim and Sherry, the email did go, so you should have this on your computer.
Well, I think it's a great response to what we're dealing with here, because it does seem like we went to a meet and greet and we talked to Terry Williams, yeah, and he was talking about the importance of having this for the town. And that he was discussing with us that he owns property here and that he, because of its location, he would be completely within his rights to put in solar, or I can't remember what he was talking about the other day. But that he could go ahead and do that without checking with anybody really, and just move forward if we didn't have a plan,
Right.
the EEP set up, so. Yeah, so then he would have to stop and we would have the oversight
Right.
to do it, so it seems like this is.
No, the only reason
Great
I
idea.
just feel we just at an impasse, and
Mhm.
I think if we could get a document in the plan that we agree with. And then it would be, it'd be more an easier pill to swallow, because it's.
I think
we
it's a
aren't gonna
great
change
safety
anything.
net. I mean,
Mhm.
Well, I think it's a good caveat to, I mean, because there is a lot of, there's a lot of the term, and my bigger objection is having the concept and the term equity shoehorned into an energy policy. And, and it comes up again and again and again. And, that doesn't necessarily it might represent some people in town, but it doesn't represent everyone in town, and it certainly doesn't represent everyone in the state of Vermont. And to act like it does, or it's something that, everyone in the state of Vermont wants to, strive for, is not, I mean, it is a term, and it is a catchphrase that, when you scratch the surface a little bit, it really, has, negative connotations to like our cultural existence. So that's why I jump up and down about, the concepts of equity and inclusion, and, they're very, powerful words and concepts that get thrown about that don't necessarily adhere to like our cultural way of life. So, and I do really like what Vito has, I think that is, whether we go with an enhanced energy plan or not, I would say this needs to go in regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think just as an absolute, like it needs to be, I think it's a very good caveat for everything else that we are going to question, because we're going to question, I mean, we've already questioned a lot of stuff in terms of the numbers and this and that, and I think that should reflect in our hesitancy to just, accept whatever numbers and things that they give us as, fact.
So I think if we look at not the public utilities definition of substantial difference, but the regular or the outstanding, the general substantial difference reference, definition that I have in there. That's the area that I think we have to focus on with our town plan. See where they say that, the recommendations are presumed to be valid, reasonable, and correct unless there is a good cause to believe otherwise. And that's the area that it's not really mentioned much in the public utilities definition of substantial difference, which is in section 248. But it is mentioned as a general definition of substantial difference. And that's the area that I think if we focus on that in a town plan, even if we leave in this disclaimer, if we make sure we cover that everything that we put in that town plan, we can prove is valid for the town, I think we'd have a good chance of, defeating some kind of development that we don't want, or moving it at least. There's if you read the two definitions, there is a big difference between what the public utilities has a substantial difference and what
And yes,
the other version is.
Oh, there's a slight pause here in the meeting. It means the members are reading the section 248 information.
speed
In
read.
case you can't hear anything, or except paper rattling.
Yeah.
poking him in that basement hand.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, if I might have a moment, I think it's probably a good exercise for us to go through the process. And if we get to the end of it, of developing the EEP and we really don't like it, we don't have to include it in the plan. But I think at least we should look at it and see if it's gonna apply to Tinmouth and if the regional commission is gonna be happy with our disclaimer, but I think it's probably, rather than just off the bat say, no, we don't wanna do it. Just at least go through it, and we did clarify that with them at the beginning that, you know, if we got all the way through it and it just didn't fit Tinmouth or fit in our plan, then we wouldn't have to do it, we'd have to probably just drop back to what we had before, but my 2 cents.
well,
I'm
I
not a
mean,
member, so you guys have to
I
decide.
mean, anyone, we can jump in at any point and, you know, we can tackle any of these, that you want, that any board member wants to discuss. You know, I mean, do we want to discuss and talk about, you know, I mean, we've all read through this several times, so we know, you know,
The thing that the equity I see we have, I'm looking at. This, I guess, this is the equity section, I guess it's the new energy plan that came up, I have a printout of it. And I think in many ways, we're addressing a lot of that already, with what we do in the town. Gail, you still send, you know, like, I know you've given out coupons or whatever to people to get fuel oil or wood pellets, we still do that?
Yeah,
So I mean,
the Boyd and Wilbur Fund, which is under the umbrella of the church.
right, I mean, we're doing some of what's under equity already. You're trying to, you know, help people that can't afford to, you know, to heat their houses.
And so I think what Jeremy said last time was the policies are pretty much set by the state, but the actions are determined by the town. So we can fill in those actions, you know,
Because he said
what the
that,
town should do, but we can also say there, that's what we're already doing.
Like, some of these actions I don't have a good feeling about.
Right, so you don't have to include them, policies, you can come up with other actions you want, but.
okay, so
I'm not
let's,
quite sure with Jeremy, you know, when he's gonna jump on this again to get us. So it's ready to go into the town plan by the time we need it. But it is, you know, it's a plan for our town, so that's what we need to
right, so
think about is.
So when we get to, you know, health on page, well, right after the, you know, burning fuels has significant health impacts. Like these include poor air quality, increased greenhouse gas, like. And this is where I come up with, we don't know if greenhouse gases are a detriment or a benefit to the planet as a whole. And, you know, to make statements like this is, I mean, you may agree and may think that greenhouse gases are detrimental. Like, okay, like, I don't feel like that is a worthwhile statement to put into our town plan. And the reason why, and these are like, a lot of this stuff is riddled with, you know, perspectives that aren't necessarily reflective of Tinmouth residents. You know, they're reflective of something, but it's not necessarily, you know, I mean, how many people, I mean, most of us burn firewood, you know, most of us are willing to have a trade-off of, you know, and poor air quality is dependent upon, you know, the time of day and, you know, if there is an inversion, you know, and so it becomes a thing of, yes, you know, we have wood stoves, but the air quality is not, like, the amount of wood smoke coming out of the wood stoves is not a detriment to the overall health of the residents of Tinmouth. It's just not. We're like, we're not concentrated enough for that to be a detrimental effect. And so that means that to me, that means that we would have to rewrite something about wood burning, you know, because I view wood burning as a net positive any which way you look at it. It's a renewable resource that, you know, slight tangent. I went to the municipal planning commission meeting on Tuesday.
The regional plan.
Regional Planning Commission. And you know, they're talking about they're working on rewriting their town plan. So if anyone wants to give any input, they are absolutely looking for it. They do not have a lot of people that are giving quality input.
The Regional Planning Commission wants your input, but you kind of have to take this survey in order to give input on their proposed policies. And so, just as a little aside here, one of the policies actions under universal policies here is conduct equitable outreach about this plan. You can only have input on this plan if you have access to a phone that will scan that thing and a computer.
I did bring this too. I didn't know if members wanted to look at it. That was handed out at the select board because it talks about like land use phase 1 and then what the policies are 1 through 5.
You want me to make copies?
Right, sure.
Okay.
And we actually went through we went through the first draft of it on Tuesday. And whoever ends up being the person that's going to be our representative, Judy, I think that you have, I think you would get a lot. I mean, it was very interesting. If I would probably go to it, even if I wasn't if I wasn't the commissioner, I think it would be very worthwhile
Yeah.
for someone, with a planning background. It would be very good to have someone like that on that commission because it was interesting. It was,
Was the alternate, so that's why.
Yeah.
When Bob resigned, Michael's the alternate.
Yeah, Kevin expressed some interest too, so.
I think you would probably be a little better suited.
Mhm.
It's,
Kind of need to know a little bit about planning, I think, to be represented.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I would actually make a motion, you know, from the planning commission to recommend Judy if you wanted to take that over that role. I would make a formal recommendation to the select board for you. I was thinking about it the other night and I was like, I would do it too. I mean, it's fun.
Willing to do it. I wasn't gonna fight Kevin too hard if he wanted to do it, but I am willing to do it.
I think you're in a better position because you've been on the planning commission for, you know, and you're kind of right in the thick of it. And plus your background and what you do gives that group of people a very good insight because they're talking about everything, you know, it's what we do only for 60,000 people in Rutland County. So if no one has an objection, I would make a recommendation for Judy to, you know.
Is there a second? I'll second
Okay.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then I'll make the recommendation at the next select board meeting. Okay, so if we go down, so now back to end of digression.
Sorry, a little sidetracked there, I couldn't help it.
Okay, so
So can I just ask you a question? You're talking about the health section here, which doesn't really apply to the town. A little heavy-handed in its language.
Yeah.
Right? So would we be able to just take this out? Or do we absolutely have to have the health section in there
well,
in our plan?
we'd have to rewrite it. I mean, we would be
Something.
rewrite, you know, like the
Can you rewrite any of it?
no, it just I mean,
I think we can, but that's gonna be guided by Jeremy,
Jeremy,
and just figure out exactly what in this we need to do. I think he thought we could do 1 or 2 of them over in a month or 2, or I don't know what his exact plan was.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I mean-
there's some language that we have to have, and there's some that we don't, and he's supposed to help us
I
figure
guess
out.
I misunderstood, because I thought he said the only thing you could change was the actions, but if you can rewrite some of this, then yeah.
well, my,
We had to come up with the data, I think.
Yeah,
right, but so, okay, so again, like, here we go with, you know, wood burning produces GHG emission at levels much higher than burning natural gas, you know, like,
It's stapled in the wrong corner, but I think you guys can figure it out.
how does
I don't
that,
know.
how does that pertain to, I mean, I guess backing up, like, I'm pro wood. I mean, I wanna, if it's going to be in our energy section, I want to be pro wood fuel as much as possible. And I don't know, I mean, we could disagree and we cannot do that,
Well, they don't mention wood
Thank you for
pellet
bringing it.
Yeah, no problem.
under wood,
no, I mean,
and we have a place that makes wood pellets right in Clarendon. And I know people have switched to pellets. They don't have to, I mean, it does burn cleaner. But they don't mention that, or we would say, we would recommend people to switch to wood pellets, or, something like that.
I don't know, why couldn't we start with Plymouth has very good air quality and then say
Well,
And that's a
some,
lot to
some
do
of these
with,
options may help, but at this point, it's not a huge concern for Plymouth.
no, it's hard to say any of this, because you see when the wildfires out in west from
Yeah.
Canada, we end up breathing that air, so.
I was gonna say
It's
there's
not
more
even-
You know,
smoke
in
during
the air quality, from where I live in Staten Island, the air quality is actually better some days than it is in Vermont, and it's kind of scary. And then, when we read this and say, oh, yeah, right. It's a global situation, and you're trying to, it's like trying to treat a disease by,
I think it
cutting
should
a toenail,
enhance the wood part a little bit, just by, like Michael's saying, you have pluses to it, is you maybe thin in your forest or cut down bad trees and things like that.
Our vistas
Plus-
open.
And plus you're not it's not a truck or a tractor trailer bringing oil to the
I mean,
Rutland area and then
We
trucking
can
it down
drive
this
to
way.
Rutland
So
to
you
get
have
power.
that.
as far as I'm concerned, for the most renewable resources, wood grows fast.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's hard to keep fields open, the edges of the
Mother
field.
Nature's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So-
Everything.
again, like getting back to like the vast majority of this is how we are going to deal equitably. You guys know. what I'm
We
saying.
know.
Um, and that's going to like, that is the intent of this entire document. Like, I mean, when you read through it, when it says, the savings brought through energy efficiency and renewable generation have historically favored more privileged people. I don't believe that.
Well, I was just thinking, for us, it's cheaper to do wood because we would prefer to do the labor and whatnot, where it's much more
We don't have to,
expensive to buy a load of oil.
we don't have to buy the firewood. We just
Yeah.
cut it off our own
So-
land.
If we take this option away, aren't we now creating an unequitable situation for the disadvantaged people in town that can run a chainsaw and have woods to burn?
But we could just reword it to say that Timoth meets its equitable goals for heating by using the natural wood in our area,
Mm-hmm.
which is cheap and it's renewable, and people can afford it who normally can't afford oil.
Well,
And you
here-
just put a statement like that in there,
Here
and
says-
then that'll just knock that out. That's
Here it
all.
says burning wood produces greenhouse gas emission at levels much higher than burning natural gas, 2.5 times higher, and coal 30 times higher. So is they're telling me I'd be better off to burn coal in my combined fuel, cause my furnace would burn
Yeah, I
coal.
could burn coal too, and oil and wood. And
So would I be better off burning coal then?
coal has other emissions that are worse.
Yeah.
Actually than wood, especially in the house, you could get
Yeah.
carbon monoxide poisoning.
And mining is just plain dangerous.
Yeah.
I think we
I
just
mean-
put the positive spin on the wood.
Yeah.
side.
And you're saying this
Like
don't
you had
really-
mentioned, you say, well, it's the people in Timoth who are of lower income levels. The wood is a more feasible
Mm-hmm.
solution to them and
People.
allows them to heat their homes comfortably and at a lower cost than
Mm-hmm.
using fuel oil or
Thank
gas
you.
or
Yeah.
propane.
I was also thinking of, the most equitable way for people to experience heat is, by having a multi system approach of, and most people in this part of the world have more than one heating source.
Yeah.
You know, most people have a furnace of some sort, either gas or propane. And then, you know, when you combine that with a wood stove and with, you know, the advent of, you know, and heat pumps, and I think that that's something that, you know, where we can say that, you know, for a town of our size and our location, like we promote, you know, a three-prong approach of using multi-fuel systems, all of which have benefits and detriments, but they allow the most efficient way for people to heat their homes, whether there is a power outage or, you know, due to, I mean, there are times when electricity is more expensive than fuel oil. I mean, and it goes back. I mean, and it goes back and forth. You know, so you know, having people having that. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to word out is there are advantages to having, you know, multiple fuel multiple heating sources equitably.
Electrical is very expensive. If you think about it as far as their peak times, you know, when we're sleeping on the over, that's their
The
best
heat
rate.
pumps,
And when you want to have it
we
in the
just
morning to
went
start.
through what we spent in the
It's
church,
fine.
putting the heat pumps. It's
But
very expensive.
But you will see so with a heat pump, you will see you know, within 8 years, it will have paid for itself in theory. If it doesn't fail before then, which it shouldn't, because it is
Right.
and you get the added benefit of air conditioning as well.
Right.
I mean, that does
That-
add a
that's
lot of,
incredible.
you know,
Yeah, well, that's the only reason that a lot of people would get a heat pump, because they are heating with wood. And then, but now we've had these hotter summers and they seem like they've been spending money on air
I
conditioning.
mean,
yeah.
You know, so I know people have gotten heat pumps.
I looked into heat pumps just so on days like today where it's cool in the morning. Then you can use the heat pump to get the chill off the house, but whereas a wood furnace, like I have, once you get it going, it's gonna last hours.
Right.
And sometimes it gets way too hot in the house.
And
Yeah.
well, I already went through that. To this year already, just starting it up once, and house went from 65 to 75 in no time.
You know, I got mine up to 80. It was way too hot for me, but my Filipino wife, she liked
She
it.
likes it. That's true.
I was busy making copies when you made the motion to recommend to the select board. So I think Michael moved, who seconded
I think Ann did.
it?
She did before I did. So
Right, but we tied.
it looked better if it's not her brother that does it.
Oh, come on. I kicked you underneath the table.
I wasn't sure if she really wanted to do it, or how badly she wanted to do it. I know how much she's got on her plate already.
You're the middle of November, you should calm down.
Okay, so we've decided to give this an effort. And we jumped ahead a little bit when it came to wood. Do we want to start with the introduction? I mean, if we're gonna do this, then we're gonna have to do this, you know, go through this and really, you know, make this a Tinmouth enhanced energy plan.
But I think you wanna do that when Jeremy's here, so.
Well, there's a lot there's a lot in each and every sentence, each and every paragraph that we really need to like discuss and talk about line by line. Like, and I hate to say that because, you know, it would be nice if we could boilerplate something, but there's just so much in here that, you know, either doesn't pertain or, you know, people might want to, they may not want 1 in 5 deaths worldwide in, you know, the health section. It's, you know, we don't know that. We have no way of knowing that figure other than just, you know.
do we want to choose someone to be the head writer about this? I mean, like throw ideas and then pull something together and.
And I'm glad you
Oh,
raised your
no,
hand.
I'm not done. My hands are down.
We
But-
just need to mark it up. Jerry is supposed to be the writer of this.
Oh, I see, okay.
We can mark it up that we want and we gotta come back the way we want it, we tell him we do it. But
I see, okay.
That's what we got the grant for, is for him to help us develop this so that it fits Tim. That's my understanding.
Okay, great. I didn't realize that he was gonna keep coming back to this and make it the way we want it to be.
Edit it again.
That's,
Okay,
Yeah.
great, all right.
and
So-
it may be that he's not able to meet our monthly meetings, so we might have to figure out another
I
time.
can't imagine that, I mean, every time I look at the figures of the, look on the impact of fuel use, I shake my head. 4,311 cords of wood.
Which I had,
If you take the number of households,
They
in
have
Plymouth, we all
three-
burned wood.
That's
Even if we
11 cords.
burned 10 cord of wood a winter, we wouldn't be anywhere near that.
I don't know, 7 or 8.
Well, what
Well,
we,
how many how many
Six.
houses you figure in Timoth burn wood? And then figure if you have 300 households, you take 300 times 10. Now we're near 4,000.
well, it's 3,000.
But
yeah, yeah,
354 homes.
4,311 cord of
Yeah.
wood.
Okay,
Three hundred
And
fifty-four
that's, you
homes,
know,
and
saying 10 cord, and not every house burns 10 cord of
there's-
wood.
they said 354 homes and 54% of them burn wood.
Wood, yeah.
So
I
what's
was gonna make that
354
statement.
times,
so now
I mean,
you're
that's,
talking.
And a
that's
thermal
what it
analysis.
says.
yeah, I don't know.
That's about 175.
Are they
Next.
including sugar houses or houses?
Well, you shouldn't, because that's not a house.
Well,
That's not the
second.
heating.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's start with, we don't like that, so we'll strike it. Right?
Alright, so somebody needs to do the official
After help.
tracker of what we wanted.
Next,
Right.
I haven't,
So Tinmouth currently consumes approximately,
Well, I mean, if he
No.
said we have to come up with figures, I said, that's something,
Zillion.
we know how many
mine
households
goes
in
back,
Plymouth, and
but
even if
that's.
50% of them burned wood.
okay,
Okay.
You know, I mean, you could just,
yeah, let's make the number. I mean, they're making the number, so we can make the number.
I mean, how much did you guys split up for the
Then
lunch?
so-
Thermal analysis. Very.
We about,
Thank
on
you.
average, we do about 23, well, 23. No, about 30 cord a year.
So.
and half the households
That's
at all.
for
just
her
about-
house, my father's house, and the farm shop.
So you have like 4 different structures.
And I know, 30s,
That's 8 chords.
that's just trying to catch up
Right.
too. We're trying to get extra split for next year.
Right.
I mean, I take about 7 to 8. I think
I
you
burn
took
oil some of the time.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Dad took 6. And the farm shop normally
So
uses 3.
18 between the 3 houses, so. Right,
Yeah, no, it's around 20,
okay,
23, I think.
so even if you say 24, that's 8 cord per building.
But I mean, when the figure they have. I mean, that's something that 4,000 cords, 4,311 cord of wood.
Okay, so so do we even need the impacts of fuel use? Because all we really need is
As a rough guesstimate, what they have for a cord of wood at 175 homes, that's 24 cord a home.
Right, it's ridiculous. I mean, and some people are gonna be burning wood pellets.
Yeah.
And some people burn oil and some people use propane.
That's what Alan's gonna be using in his new home is
Right.
wood pellets.
Well, 150 homes times 8 cords, that's 1,200 cords.
That's 175 homes.
Oh, well, I went down a little bit, but even if we said 3,000 cords. Or 2,400, that's still way less than the 4,000 they've got
Right.
here.
So I think what they're actually saying is
That-
they're talking about 86
Million.
million BTUs. So they're talking they're
That's right.
translating all energies like the equivalent
So,
of
so they're taking that and they're converting it into cord of wood into but it's
gallons
not
of
that,
fuel.
different.
yeah. But I mean,
ways where it shows up.
it just doesn't, it seems really a lot.
It does.
We could also probably figure out how many gallons of fuel. Maybe, maybe not, homes in Timoth Burn. I mean, I go through about it. Last year I went through 3/4 of a tank just running that when I wasn't home to build the fire.
I just want to say, if they want to tell us that we're burning maybe 4,500 quarts. And we say, okay, if that's what they're telling us, then by the time we have to hit a number, like in 2025, we can calculate it and find out that is absolutely incorrect.
Or we could,
I don't mean, I'm just saying, they're gonna be saying, have you hit this number? Have you hit this number? Have you hit this number?
well, let's just hit the numbers right now. And that way we'll meet our target goals and we'll have achieved everything. I'm absolutely serious.
Just to make it up
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm just saying, if they're setting this at a very high number, I mean, it may be incorrect. And may not be verifiable because it's conjecture that this is based on what their numbers are, right? In a sense, it's because we then have to lower that and then lower it again and lower it again, correct?
But if we're already at that lowered level, then we're all set.
Yeah, but it's all based on what was before. From what I was reading, is that they're saying you have to, by this year, bring it down by 25%, right? I mean, they were talking about 2025, 2030, bring it down, eventually to
true.
80% down from, which is a goal, but
Which is, I mean, what I just,
You're saying is, we set the goals real high and we come up with the real information, we're meeting them without doing anything.
this is, I mean, I know that's kind of cheating, but if this is what they're telling us and we're trying to figure out if
Well, if
that's
we had a
so or
way
not.
to calculate it, you know. I mean, you could. If you looked about how people live in a town full year, you know, all year, not just the residents up at the lake that are only there in the summer.
Mm,
And who don't heat houses or cool them. And you take out the rest of those residences and you figure, you know, what an average house, I mean, they probably have figures of what a house actually uses. You know, a standard size house, they
Oh, yeah.
probably generalize it into, you know, a standard house is so many square feet, and then we multiply that out, that it could take this much oil to heat it and that much. And it's not really a true figure, so. You know, the only thing we could do is get a figure on how many full-time residents are in town and then say, get an average size house and say, well, that's what you should use, you know, and multiply it out. But, you know, they want something, the way Jeremy said, you can use your own figures, but it have to come from a reliable source. So how reliable could we get, you know what I mean? Or could we challenge these figures? I mean,
oh, we could challenge these figures. I mean, he's not gonna, I mean. I asked him, and he doesn't give you answers to where he gets these numbers. So, you know,
well, like I said, they're basing it on a generalization of. There's probably somebody that says, well, every house in America is this many square feet in this area and.
Yeah.
And every house should be using this amount of oil or using this amount of fuel, and it's not always true, but. We're gonna be stuck with it unless we had an accurate way to disprove it.
Were we able to call CVPS, or I mean, Green Mountain Power?
Well, that would be for
Going to that.
electric usage.
But I agree, but they can get the total and get names, but they can get the total.
Oh,
Kilowatt
we
hour.
actually did that. I
Did
looked at our electric consumption. We took a survey right in here and we were way
Everything.
below
right.
what they used, what they had.
Yeah.
And,
Well, we did that. I remember bringing in our own slips and seeing
Yeah.
how hard they were, but that's an easy one to back up.
Mhm.
When you have that figured there.
That's a-
Averages are hard.
but how,
Yeah,
like they're
yeah.
saying, if these figures we don't agree with to begin with, and then how are they going to judge what we're using 5 years from now? I mean, where are they gonna get that data from? You know what I'm trying to say is like, if you start out with the wrong figures and then you say 5 years from now, they could just fudge up another set of
Yeah.
figures and say, okay, we made our goals, but we didn't do anything. You know what I mean?
You
It's,
conserved on
yeah, and we don't know where the figures are coming from, so it's kind of hard to say, well, you know, what do you,
It's-
you know, it's all, supposition and if we don't know where they're coming from
But
or what they base them on. I mean, there has to be some kind of database that they're using.
That's right.
The concern, I think, is that we'll try and figure out these numbers, right, as closely as we can, but we don't want to make the numbers lower because there's an expectation that we will lower them. So if they, we keep bringing them down. So if they want to give us numbers that we can disagree with or we can play with, my concern is that we don't want to bring them down too low because then when they come back and say, well, now's your target point, we want to be able to at some point say, well, yes, we have done some things to help make it better,
In Timoth, there are more houses, I mean, there are new houses being built.
right?
And so we're supposed to be using less energy with a larger population. So, I mean, we have to be realistic too.
And if people, do start to insulate their homes and make it so that it's not so drafty, that will help the numbers too.
Right.
Not necessarily have to get away from wood or
Right.
electric or gas or anything like that. I personally think wood is the best heat out there, but
Nice and consistent.
yep.
So how about under goals, we write, our goal for the enhanced energy plan is to achieve substantial deference.
Yeah.
No, that is our goal. I mean, it just eliminate all of this and just like achieve substantial deference. That is our goal for the enhanced energy plan.
Well, the only thing, like I said, if you read the definition of substantial deference, you have to be careful because they want what's in here to reflect, things that we can prove is truthful. And you don't want to get in where they are and just say what we want to say, because then if something comes up, we're not going to get the substantial deference because they're going to find faults with the plan. So you want to, even if we got to agree to their lies, it's better than not having substantial deference. That's my point.
But it seems that what Jeremy had sent us, the email with this plan in it. And that what they were saying is you fill all this out and you send it in and then they will review it. So we could take the risk of just putting in certain language and that we think is the right thing to do. And they will review it and come, from what I can understand from here, is that they will then come back to us and say, well, we accepted this much of it, but there are parts that you have to write more, than just say a single line.
That's Jeremy's job, is to help.
Oh, he's supposed to be doing this stuff, sorry.
He's back in the-
I'm sorry.
He's supposed to be helping us get through this so that we do meet the guideline, meet the standard as best as we can. And our job, your job, is to make sure that it actually reflects Tinmouth. And what will work for Tinmouth and what won't.
So when we make the changes, it doesn't go back to them, it goes back to Jeremy, and Jeremy will then,
Figures it out, right, he's supposed to be helping us make those changes. The regional commission, he will probably review it for the regional commissioner, they will review it before it goes to the state.
sorry. I did
And
not
Judy
get
will
it.
probably be on that, no, I mean, it's the commissioners of all of the towns that
Mhm.
review it, so,
Mhm. Yep.
that's where, having someone on the board
Be very helpful,
present is,
Yeah.
and that way you can justify and say, hey, blah, 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 and
yeah.
Mhm.
lobby as you're supposed to.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, is that we have figures here that is our basis, and then in 5 years from now, or whenever they review the figures, how they go to, how we know where those, if we don't know where the figures are coming from, how do you know where you're going? It's better off just to, go along with this folly and get the,
And
the
and
plan.
that's where I disagree. I really think that if we're going to, just going along with it, I think I can't in good conscience just go along with things that are not factually correct to this town. Like and I think they want you to just go along and, oh yeah, blah, 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 but it's not accurate to the town. And that's, if we're going to put our names on something, like it needs, I want it to be factually correct, or as factually correct as it can be for this town, not to be what the state has for its like global concept. Like we are dealing with this town, not,
But the point I'm trying to make is that we don't know the reality that we're dealing with. In other words, we don't know where the figures are coming from, so it's kind of hard to challenge it if you don't, in other words, you don't know where it's coming from.
So that's what we.
And
need
then
to do.
next year, 5 years from now, they could give us a whole different set of figures that are lower or higher. Because we don't know exactly where they're coming from. So if you don't, in other words, let's say we just did an experiment and we had a big switch in Timoth and shut the whole town off. From GMP or and we ran it on ourselves, and then they said, okay, now give us the figures. And if they didn't change, we know they're lying, but we can't do that. You know what I'm trying to say?
So, I mean, then we can get into, let's rewrite impacts of fuel use so we don't have any numbers in it. Like it's at our discretion about what we want to say in this. We can talk about, the fuel use in Tinmouth, but we don't have to get into the specifics of, numbers if we don't want to.
Right.
And
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, if we reverse what you were just talking about in terms of number of cords of wood that it takes per house, based on the discussion that we had here, apply that to what they told us and run it back to the 364 houses that are here, that would give us a number. I mean, it wouldn't be accurate because not everybody is burning wood, but if that's,
But it does say 54%, so if you're near half of that house.
yeah.
Well, where did the 54% come from? I mean, I think we need to be able to ask Jeremy to identify some of these sources of where the information is coming from.
Yeah.
And, in the disclaimer, we might say, based on the information provided by X, Y, and Z,
Yeah,
Exactly.
these are not,
We have the number of houses. We know,
I don't think there's 364 houses in town. There's 450 properties, so there's quite a few that are just land. I will try to check on that number so we can.
yeah, as long as those numbers are.
Because a
Then,
house like what Travis Lupley is building is certainly gonna use more electricity than Penny Bushy in her trailer.
well, and the idea that that probably the number of houses that are just seasonal homes. Right, so we could just cut that number down and say X
Mhm.
amount are seasonal, X amount are
Are they
full-time.
counting vacant homes like Alba
Yes.
Fishes?
Yes, they're counting every
So,
house.
so
Okay.
that's
Well,
not
and we had
heated, is
that.
it?
We had a discussion before about what was vacant was they were counting everything, so. Yeah, no, that shouldn't be counted as a house.
No, it's
So we-
vacant, or it's not even heated, is
Not
it?
livable.
Yeah,
Well, we just give that to Jeremy then and say, this is how many
The list-
homes, but this,
Well, I have to come up with information in the other part of the town plan for,
Mhm,
for the grand list.
right,
So we'll have numbers from there about
Yeah.
how many houses
Perfect.
there are, how many camps there are, how many mobile homes there are. And
great.
that might give us a better basis to come up with a number of.
A lot
and
of
how many are
footnotes.
using wood stoves or pellets
so
but there are a lot, there.
how about, I'm down onto equity right here, and I removed a couple of sentences. We ultimately rely on consuming energy to live our lives, period. We need fuel to stay safe and warm, to get to work and to provide basic sustenance. Without energy access, people are limited in their ability to maintain a job, have a home, and have a home. Most people in Timoth have direct access to energy in the forms of electricity, gasoline, wood, and heating fuel. And just end it right there. And then it goes into, however, these fuels have a substantial burden for many people. This is a concept called energy burden. And I was just gonna eliminate that term, energy burden.
That sounds okay.
Do you wanna keep the paragraph after it or get rid of that one too?
No, that's as far as I got. I'm
Okay.
just, I'm running through here, like
Mhm.
finding things that I find offensive and just eliminating them and leaving the things that I like.
Well, where it says energy burden. Well, we should put in something to say that Plymouth has many people who burn wood from their property. And they aren't faced with the energy burden of many of the people that have to buy fuel oil and buy their energy.
Well, that kind of ties into the next paragraph, because it says that we have a low energy burden, so that seems like that would be something that's a benefit to people here.
Okay, so, so we'll leave in the sentence energy burden, and then the next sentence, the next paragraph, energy burden is the proportion of one's income spent on energy, the greater the percentage of income, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to use these numbers? Tinmouth spent 9.7% of their income on energy. I don't necessarily need those numbers, but I would put in
Well, it
that.
has, it's a low energy burden, which is the good figure.
Yeah, I was.
State average is
it
11%, which is good.
And
So I
it-
mean, that's
It has the one behind it, and in the back it says 13.
a positive.
I mean,
So you wouldn't want to take that out.
Keeping it.
But right behind that, I think we should put in Vito's sentence about how many people in Tinmouth use
Yeah. that's a
and
good
and
idea.
tie in the renewable resource of wood to help to keep. The reason why we have a lower energy burden is that
Right.
we use our renewable resources in
Mhm.
town to maintain our lower than state average of
Right.
something
Mhm.
words.
Which would explain why our burden is less on our income, because we're cutting the wood from the land.
And you, that, the new group that we have in town, the equitable equity,
Yeah.
I mean, what is that? What do they look at? I mean, what are they looking at? The same type of thing, energy equity or?
No, they're looking at, right now, mostly they're looking at creating events that people can participate in and.
Okay, well, that has nothing to do with energy or,
No.
Not that they've dealt with so far.
okay.
They're busy with the pavilion and.
Town
Fun
fun
day.
day.
I would get rid of community members with a high energy burden who do not have access to the opportunities or those with a low.
I don't know what.
Matter of equity. Members with a high energy burden do not have equal access to the opportunities of those with a low energy burden. I just am eliminating that right off the bat. I don't,
Do you want that whole sentence gone or just after the semicolon?
that whole sentence
Okay.
gone.
Starting with what?
Which,
In the beginning. 11%.
And we'll let Jeremy work the word equity back in somehow. That'll give him something to do.
Coming in here.
Is somebody keeping this?
Oh, from this year.
Judy,
This whole
I
thing
think,
was that.
I think Judy's
So
keeping
the
track.
average is 11%, and then she
Yeah,
wants
except
all
I
this
used
out.
Fred last time, so it might get interesting.
I have to print my own. Oh, we all have different printouts. I said,
Yeah.
okay, so it
I'll
was
do my best.
equity, and then,
I was losing me. I don't know
Energy
which
burden.
paragraph.
and
I
then up
It-
to
Uh,
average
It's the one that
11, so
starts
he was
on
saying.
The second
everything
paragraph
after
under
that.
equity, it's just on the
Yeah.
Energy access.
side.
You went from this
It's that first
page.
full sentence, at least on my copy.
Okay, equity,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
same.
energy burden, yeah, okay, we're good,
Okay,
turn
okay,
there.
okay, yeah.
and then
I'm
average
a little bit
11,
below.
yeah, she's different too, so.
Yeah, because my limit is on this page.
So energy access winds up being a matter of equity, take that out.
I mean, unless someone wants to keep it in. I mean,
Just
I'm,
cross it out.
feel free to jump in with whatever. I mean, don't let me dictate everything. This is,
Just earlier, same thing, but it's.
Well, once again, Jeremy may come back and say, no, you gotta put that sentence back in, so.
or have him craft a different sentence that is not necessarily, that is closer aligning, it's getting him to align the concepts that he wants to push that are with what the Tinmouth ideal
Mhm,
is,
mhm.
because he just took a boilerplate. This is it. So it's our job to refine it, and then he'll come back and do more.
Where's it say 7A sidebar, and then where the heck is 7A?
Oh, it's information he doesn't have in here yet.
All right, so Timoth acknowledges these types of inequities in our town and is crafting this plan with a focus on implementing more equitable practices.
Hey, this stuff is just too ambiguous and.
That's. We could strike it.
I don't know if we're gonna need it later on for when we get into where the actions are, or if we move some of those definitions to where the actions are. At least when we get into distributional equity and,
Mhm.
Oh, or can we, where it says Timoth acknowledges these types of inequities in our town, crafting this plan and then put in something about what we do already. To help with the inequities, or, you know, where we have people get, some aid in getting fuel oil and wood pellets that we do, that for people who did come to the, you know, town office and what other.
Okay, so
institutions you have in
Timoth
town.
acknowledges these types of inequities in our town. And the next thing, and
We have certain agencies that have aided those in need. you
Well,
know,
we're-
whatever, I don't know.
we're
I don't
not,
know the name of it.
we're not crafting on anything implementing equitable practices. What do?
You can make it a fact in our town, and we have, and then you say what,
Timoth acknowledges
Mhm.
these types of inequities in our town. That's it. And then in our actions, then we will say what we do for combating the inequities. So
Yeah.
the rest of
Comes up
that,
with
okay.
these.
So that's just one sentence right there. Okay, and everything else goes away.
That's just the pre-sentence to what we're gonna do. With what's listed down below, right? The structures and corrective, distributional.
what would procedural be? Distributional.
I'll tell you,
the pro-
it's. I don't think it's gonna get pages.
You can
I
correct.
gotta read
things.
some more.
Oh, it tells you down
tells
here.
Down below.
Oh, okay.
I kind of went through both.
fair access and representation in their systems of government and town planning. That's procedural.
Procedural, okay, thank you.
Where are we now? Did
Can
we
you say
skip a
that one
page?
more time?
Community members need fair access and representation in their systems of government and town planning. This is procedural equity. This is the fifth paragraph on sheet 2, the first sentence.
Right there.
That's what I was.
So it's I started reading from right here.
In addition,
Yeah.
okay, oh, in
Would be
addition, here we go.
Procedural.
This procedural
Repre-
inequity historically.
This
They
is.
just asked what it
procedural.
was.
I see.
Yep.
Wasn't purposely skipping ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just asking, because it says here, distributional, procedural, structural, corrective. So I can kind of guess the other ones, but I wasn't sure what the
Nice
procedural
if
is.
those had headers. You could find them easier. We're gonna need to be
Mhm.
referencing them.
Mhm.
So
So,
circle it, so we can see.
Well, that's what I've been doing, trying to circle the definition, so.
well, we
Um,
do have procedural because of the way the town is set up, it seems to me.
So I want to spend about another 5 minutes on this and then, and then wrap up a little bit so we can get home by 8:30, if that's.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's a little bit incorrect here when it says, talking about the procedural equity. Historically, town planning has followed a prescribed process of public notice and comment period. Not in Tinmouth. Historically in Tinmouth, we have had public gatherings that would come. At the very beginning, when we did the first town plan, we had potlucks and explained planning to people. Over the years, when we've done, updated the plan, we've done surveys and we've had other meetings that try to get people to be involved. So, so us historically is not just post the notice and here's what we're doing.
so we put that in here. Like,
Mhm.
And
just
eliminate-
add that
Well,
to
or
it.
for
Yeah.
us historically, it has
Mhm.
been.
Yeah,
Right.
so if we eliminate
That's
all of
right.
that and put in what Gail just said,
Yep.
Tinmouth believes in the value of engaging in a broad outreach campaign to provide improved access to everyone in the town. I really like that sentence. That's a good sentence. And I would even leave in, our goal is to meet the people where they are rather than expecting them to come to us. I don't think that that is actually. Mm, I don't think that that's accurate. I don't think that the landscape of public engagement has significantly changed for the better. Does anyone think differently? Do you think it changed for the better?
Zoom is nice, but in person is so much better.
Yeah.
And I say that after having come straight from the TAC meeting on my own computer.
So you're much happier here with us then, right?
I was gonna go in person, but then I couldn't make last week and you guys nicely rescheduled for me.
So that was partially, there was a debate that
Yeah,
two
you
members
had to
might
go to the debate.
That wasn't just me.
be. Standing room only.
Oh, wow.
It was very interesting. It was, I mean, lot of people there. A few from Tinmouth. There was more people from Tinmouth than I would have thought. So that was good.
Mhm.
It was a good.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a good-
What do you think about, we've learned that the bottom-up approach of community engagement results in providing community members with a voice and agency in planning the future of our town. We highly encourage all town planning to use the community-driven approach. Do we like that?
I don't know about a bottom-up approach, but we
Okay.
did try to engage a lot of them with the survey. Whether they took it or not was up to
Mhm,
them.
mhm.
How about, we have learned that community engagement results in providing community members with a voice and agency in the planning the future of our town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So we'll eliminate the bottom-up approach of.
Mhm.
So that sentence will be, we have learned that community engagement results in providing community members with a voice and agency in providing the future of our town. We highly encourage all town planning to use driven approach. One we'll see in our later policies and actions to engage in the regional community. And I would eliminate in a truly democratic manner. That word gets overused to the point of nauseam for me.
Well, and at the meeting about the special meeting, the woman who was in charge said this is not a democracy. So I guess it could be.
We're a constitutional republic,
That's
technically. All right. So this is an interesting, the saving brought through energy efficiency and renewable generation have historically favored more privileged people.
Well, that's
Spelled
like
wrong.
the thing for the survey, you gotta scan it.
But, the savings brought through energy efficiency.
Well, what they're
Well,
talking
spelled
about
wrong.
is the people who usually buy the solar panels had more money than the people who knew who could use the solar panel. You know what I mean? It's basically just the.
But I don't know if
That's
there's,
just the way,
Because my brother is building a house
Right.
and he's got insulation in it. It's gonna be pretty tight and he's not wealthy.
no, but I'm
So-
talking about when they talk about people getting solar panels or people doing certain things, usually they make it so complicated to get the permits and everything else that the people who really could use the solar panels can't end up not getting them. And the people that get them end up saving more money and get wealthier. And that's usually how it works.
Not for me. They were actually gonna cost me more money than they were gonna save me when I did the math.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
I mean,
But I'm saying
Yes.
is eventually, the people that have the disposable income, let's say, they buy solar panels and it ends up getting more disposable income because of it.
mhm.
That's what basically that is saying.
How about,
Not, you know, it's like I looked at solar panels and I said, gee, I'd be dead by the time I could get the payback.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking like an accountant, I'm not thinking like, you know, if I had disposable income to throw away, I'd say, yeah, what the heck, get solar, you know, solar panels. So,
again,
Yes.
so there's not necessarily savings, there's not necessarily a saving in, you know, money when it comes to solar panels. It has been, and I think that's the word, that the savings brought through energy efficiency and renewable generation. I'm looking at
Maybe
it.
the use of energy efficiency and renewable generation has historically favored more privileged people.
Do we need to even have this in here? I'm sorry.
That's
I
actually,
think I think what Vito's saying a lot is the upfront cost to get the savings is prohibitive to most people.
To buy a solar panel, windmill is expensive.
And, yeah, it's funny, we were just riding in a car yesterday with, personal Talbot. He is, 15,000 up on his, solar panels, but on his house. And he got, he had net meter, and he was 8 months, 9 months net meter. And he says in winter cloudy days wasn't as much. Then he got, companies buying the overflow, I guess, or whatever you wanna call it, and buying carbon credits on it. Anyways, ended up with, $2,000 he got in a check.
Yeah.
On that after that, so he was taking, but he dropped the money, he didn't have to borrow the money to get the 15,000, all these other things with that. So I thought that's where I was seeing the privileged people.
How
It's
many
not,
people have
it may be
$15,000 to
privileged,
drop into a
because they
solar
have
panel?
disposable money, but he got to pay back in less, about 3.5 years when he had his, but he wasn't paying for his house. And when he got for a renewable check, and he's like, can't believe it. He says, his first renewable check he's had for 3 years.
and
And
the thing with.
You got $500, and then this last year's been
But
2,000.
that's, by him getting $2,000, it raises the price of electricity for the people who don't have the solar panel.
Yes,
So I mean,
Yes,
you know,
there
that's,
is.
if you talk about inequities, that's where you'd have to look at the inequities, because I always get, that riles me up, because Green Mountain Power, instead of them putting up solar generation or
Yeah.
wind generation, they have a contract to do it. And all those benefits, the energy credits are sold out of state,
Yeah,
and we get
it
no
is.
credit for it all.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the cost of electricity to Vermonters goes up because of that.
Yeah.
And you talk to people who move down south,
It-
and somebody said they in South Carolina, North Carolina, they're paying, like, one woman's on a plant, she pays like less than $50 a month.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
electricity
Yeah.
for a whole house, and here you can't get away with under $100 a
Yeah.
month. No, it's hard to.
Unless you have
Yeah.
oil, hot water.
Well, I mean, even, it was funny, because, a friend of ours, she has oil heat, she has the heat pumps, and she's got a wood pellet stove. And she called up Green Mountain Power and said, gee, my electric bill went up, and they said, well, what were you using? Well, I had the heat pumps on for air conditioning, and I had my clothes dryer on. I said, well, those are the things that use the most electricity.
Yeah.
So,
They're-
it's kind of like, it's just the cost of electricity is high in the Northeast and in Vermont especially, and it's because the more we bring in with solar panels and wind, the credits are
It's
going
not-
out of state, and
That's-
the money, our electric rates go up, because Green Mountain Power has to
What?
buy it.
My electric rate dropped when I got a heat pump hot water
Oh,
heater.
yeah, it'll drop because you're not renting a hot water heater either.
Yeah,
Yeah, my same happened to me.
I wasn't renting the previous hot water heater.
But I was
owned it.
renting one, and then it
The
dropped.
farm
because-
rented one, but now the GMP won't do that.
No, they won't. So I had to get rid of the rent. That was like $13 a month that I originally instantly gained. But there was no more off-peak metering.
Yeah,
and the
You still
heat
have to
pump.
do the offbeat. Because our farm hot water heater doesn't always run. During the peak, which is not good because we need the hot water for the
Right.
farm, which we
Yeah.
never liked, but.
You do need it on demand. when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
Running a farm.
so I like the vein that Vito was running in, and I think we should probably pick that up at the next time we meet. Right, just work in like the concept of, how, the inequitable, unsustainable level of solar panel or solar production is detrimental to, not just, and I don't want to say low income Tinmouth people, but just, I mean, this is where I'd broadly go out to ratepayers in the entire community.
I think that's some truth for that.
But I mean, it's getting on, so I figured that it's a good place to stop. And we'll just keep going. We'll just hammer this right out, and if we can hammer out a couple more pages at the next meeting, and then maybe we can have Jeremy back for because now I think that we have a direction that we're going in, so we'll probably be able to pick up steam.
It all comes back down to those figures,
Yeah,
we're trying to. It's like, working, imaginary stuff, it's Alice in Wonderland figures.
So take a look at this. Can
Yeah.
Brian get some notes written up from the TAC meeting in September, because they went over this. I think if you read through it, you'll find that the Rutland Regional Planning Commission does not necessarily agree with Timoth's ideals for the plan that they're developing. Shocking.
they do not.
And then my other comment is, as a planning commission, do we have any potential candidates to take to the select board? Because I'm assuming they're gonna ask.
I actually, I dropped the ball. Joey Buffum is actually very interested in, and he would have shown up tonight if I had contacted him, but he was probably down in Springfield at a football game. But
Yeah,
he has expressed a strong interest in learning, specifically the planning commission ins and outs.
So maybe we can interview him quasi sort of.
Yeah, at the next meeting.
So far, there's 3 people that are interested in being on the planning commission. Mo, Joey Duffin, and Bobby Leeds.
Okay,
So
so
if you're gonna interview people, you might want.
yeah, maybe the 3 of us can come.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
I mean, it's kind of what you guys did with me and what we kind of did with Anne.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Right.
all right, thank you.
I'll reach out to Joe.
To invite them to the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, then I won't reach out to anyone. Nothing.
Well, you can reach out to other people.
No,
Just
no,
tell
no.
them all to come
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the November
Yep.
25th meeting.
Okay, November 21st, we are gonna have a meeting in November. We typically don't, but we will have one this year
We have to keep plugging
along.
along because we really need our town plan ready by May.
Right, that's our hard deadline,
Yeah.
it's May.
And that is coming.
That's-
I backed it up from September. The
Yeah.
select board had to have a hearing, the planning commission had to have a hearing, all 30 days notice, so. If we say we're gonna be ready by mid-May, it gives us a little bit wiggle room on the other side. I just have to check with Jennifer Truffle, who's doing the word processing in the town plan, to see what her schedule is. I think at some point. She's doing our town plan, or our town plan, but I also want to do the town reports out. She's gotta squeeze that in January, and at some point she starts doing taxes, so she won't be available in March and April probably. So if we can get her as much information as we can, we won't feed her the EEE plan, that's what Jeremy's supposed to be coming up with, but. If there's anything else that we need to put in the town plan, we need. to Get some changes to her file. Just so we all have a heads up and.
Maybe we should do half and half at the next meeting. We should do half of the energy plan and then half continuing on with just going through our count, because that was what we were doing before we jumped into, Jeremy at the last meeting. And that way we can keep going both
Mhm.
and half and half. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. That's it. Right?
Thank you.
We're all done.
Make a
We
motion.
adjourned.
Then, oh, yeah, I'll second it. Meeting adjourned,
There we go.
8:20. Good
Um,
night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
so my first railroad closure started early. It started Wednesday night after the last train went through.
Wow.
And we did get the box all set. I left the job site at 7 and I was very thankful I got to come here because I wanted to go home and warm up. It
Oh.
was cold in the last.
And
couple of-
where was it?
Wallingford, so I didn't have far to drive, but it's right next to, it's right behind Shaw's and Kelly's on Route 7. There's the railroad runs right there. where
Mhm.
It's a FEMA project. We replaced a 18-inch precast reinforced concrete culvert, and then we replaced, I forget what the other 6 foot by 2 foot high box culvert.
Oh.
So, and I'm hoping to issue substantial completion tomorrow, but we'll see. They were working on the stone fill today and then seeding and the mulching and all that kind of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the train went through on Monday, did fall in the hole. so that's good.
Yay.